and welcome to episode 32. Today, Mom is going to share a little bit about expectations versus responsibility in your mothering. And then at the end, we're going to answer a question that one of our viewers submitted. So I'll turn it over to Mom.
Joining you again and hoping to say some things that might be helpful. That's our prayer. So today we're going to address some common scenarios that young mothers will identify with. Of course, the Bible says, no temptation has taken you except which is common to, and we're going to say women and mothers at this point. And we're going to talk about some of these and then how we can turn them inside out. Here's a common scenario where, we often get embarrassed and discouraged when our children do not um, act as we had expected them to act. And one scenario would be you're at a dinner with your family is invited over for dinner, or maybe you have guests in your home and you're having a good conversation, but you're noticing that your children's table manners have much lacking, and they're horrid, and so you're embarrassed by that. Or another thing would be you're on a phone call, have a nice phone call going with a friend, and your kids are making so much noise and interrupting you, and you can't carry on the conversation. That's embarrassing. Another thing that we faced was when we lived on the ranch and we had hosted park days there. I had to sit my three boys, the younger ones, on the couch and prepare them because they would tend to do things that were not good on the park days. They were young and they would chase the girls and throw things, and so we had to address those kind of things, and also teenagers. Now, I don't remember addressing this too much with ours, but if your teenagers are gossiping and putting down others in their youth group or in their church group, uh, you need to address that too, and it's that's an important thing. And the last thing is if your children are being disrespectful, rolling their eyes and arguing back and not taking discipline well. So those are some things that are hard on for you as a mother. They have to be addressed. And if we have expectations of how they're supposed to act, we need to turn that inside out and realize there's some responsibilities we have in there of training. So we're going to talk about that. A few things will overlap a little bit with some early videos that we did, but we're going to talk about how do you address these kind of things. It's easy to react in ways that are not helpful. Some of these things like table manners and park day things and all are not sins, but you want to prepare your children to be good examples and to be able to not have habits that will um, be not helpful for them as they are growing and interacting more with people. So let's um, let's look at those 5 different scenarios and see how we can address them. Now, with the table manners, what we did with especially with our older children, is we put a little jar by each of their plates, and we would have a table manner that we would focus on. Either things like you don't talk with your mouth full, and you keep your place neat around your plate, and you ask to be excused when you're done, and you clear your plate and take it over to the counter. So there were things like that and other table manners. And they had a little jar of dimes, not full, but a couple dollars worth. And every time they forgot to do one of the table manners, they had to take one of their dimes out and put it in the center bowl. And so at the end of the week, they got to keep the dimes that were still in their jar, and that was fun and motivational. And so that's a way to prepare them where you're not just scolding them, but you're inspiring them and tell them it's for their good. It's not a sin to talk with food in your mouth or to have your plate not around your plate not be kept neat, but it's something that will help you in life have a better reputation and be a joy to have over. The other thing was noisy interrupting children. Now, we talked about the telephone box earlier about if you're having to be on a phone call, that they can only play with the toys in that box when you're on the phone, and they have to be quiet while they play. And also, with young children, you might want to schedule those calls when they're napping, and you're not going to have that kind of interruption. Then the park day rules. When we lived on the ranch, we had the three boys and the younger boys, and we sat them down on the couch and says, "Okay, what are the park day rules?" And they would have to recite them. They were things like, you don't throw anything at somebody unless it's a ball and they're ready to catch it. You don't chase and the girls around and get them all upset and tease them. And you are good. We lived on the ranch, so we were kind of the hostesses and hosts. So you are helpful to the guests that come, and you don't do activities that are dangerous. So, like, not all the kids are good tree climbers, and you don't want to initiate them going way up high just because you can do that easily yourself. So, gossiping teens, that's important, and it's important to do training early and often in this area. Two verses that are helpful for this area is a whisperer, and that in the Hebrew is a slanderer or separates chief friends. That's a Proverbs 16:28 verse. And also the seven things that the Lord hates and is an abomination to him. And you know, it lists things like lying and murderers and someone who plans his wickedness and a false witness. So those are all big things. And you know, it ends with this, and he who sows discord among brothers. So stress those verses if you see that the kids are gossiping and repeating things that are not helpful. Make sure you help them to understand how God views that. It's one of the things that he hates. Then disrespectful children. Now, gossiping and disrespectful are both issues that are very important to address. They're not just things like table manners and training them how to play in groups with children. And so, your attitude, as we've mentioned in the past, is key. The way they see you respect their dad and the way you prepare them to honor their dad is key here. Do not tolerate disrespect because your ability to train them in every other area is built on them understanding that God expects them to honor and obey their parents. And this sets the stage for all God-given authorities in the future. You don't want them to mock and put down authorities. So that's very important. And that includes later, as they're growing, the elderly, pastors, police, rulers. That's you want your children to be safe, and it's important to have them know that these are God-given authorities, and we're not to put them down, make fun of them, but to honor them. Okay, now your attitude is a big thing that's catching. You know, we don't want to be the thermometers in our home that just kind of picks up on the kids' attitudes and reacts in like ways. but we want to be the thermostat. The thermostat is set to make everybody the most comfortable and make it a pleasant environment. So let's think about ways that we can be the thermostats in the relationships in our home. Um, it's your cheerfulness, your thankfulness, friendliness, reverence, thoughtfulness, and loyalty are all important examples as you're training your children. If they see you complaining about their dad or other people in the church or neighbors and all, that's not going to be helpful for them. So I just turn these problems that the children might have inside out and take a look at yourself. My husband used to say that, when I'm pointing somebody else's faults out, I've got three fingers pointing back at me. So look and see if there's some training you've neglected and that you need to do. Also, we mentioned once before about the chickadee reward. We had a little ceramic chickadee, and some chickadees will not um, uh, fly away in the winter, but they'll stay and sing through the storms. So the child that responded when they didn't always get their way with a nice attitude, they'd find the chickadee sitting by their plate at dinner time, and their dad would notice that and know that they really worked hard to have a good attitude. So I'm encouraging you to be your family's thermostat to raise the warmth and love level in your home while you're training them and chastising. It's easier to chastise if your guidelines are set, um, and you've already done the training, and you have a right to expect them to follow through.
One of our subscribers asked a question. I'm going to ask my mom now if she can answer on here. How do you remain joyful and faithful as a mother of 7 children in the everyday tasks that you're responsible for?
Okay, that's a good question, because all of us as mothers have, whether it's hormonal or just tiredness or whatever, but we're tempted to be overwhelmed or discouraged or thinking that we're missing out on some things. But, the place that you need to go to when you're feeling overwhelmed and discouraged, and what I found, God is always so faithful. I love the verse that he gently leads those that are with young, and also he that calls you will also do it. That early training, you don't want to let up and give up on that and just shove it off onto somebody else to watch the kids. You want to do that training, and it pays off in the long run. It's really important job. It's a full-time job, and it's a wonderful occupation when you devote yourself to it. And you'll need a lot of help from the Lord. You'll need to take all kinds of situations to Him and ask Him for wisdom and for strength and for grace. And so I had to do that often, and God was always faithful to encourage me, to lift me up, to give me strength for the day. So it's not that I was a super mom and had all the ideas and strength. God is the one that provided that, and I just thank Him, and I encourage you to do the same thing.
Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks. We don't have a topic yet picked out, but as always, Mom loves feedback. So if you have a question or something that you want encouragement on, just comment below or send us an Instagram message, and we'll see if we can address it. Hope you're having a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon.
So long.
Bye.